Chapter 11, When Decisions Go Bad. Quote, "Shallow men believe in luck or in circumstance. Strong men believe in cause and effect." Ralph Waldo Emerson. Kaboom! There goes a decision we made long ago or at the last minute. Medic! We screwed up. The pain approaches. My anxiety has turned to regret. I am certain I made a bad decision. The consequences lurk in my future, so what now? Given enough time, nearly every bad decision we make is revealed to us with a twisted smile. Sometimes it takes years of marriage, of career, of employment, of purchase, of debt. Other times it takes seconds. Wrong turn, first bite of dinner, saying the wrong thing, texting while driving, overdose. It's just a matter of time, and the bad decision indicators sprout like yellow dandelions in springtime. Knowing why bad decisions happen doesn't prevent us from making them. We're human, and we tend to learn the hard way sometimes, right? So, even though we are gaining some new decision-making tools, we can also better understand and deal with those instances when we discover a decision gone bad. Why is it critical to apply a tourniquet to a bleeding limb? Answer: to stop the bleeding and be alive for the next opportunity. In decision-making, it's important that we stop the damage and improve whatever we can improve. A quick and correct decision post-failure can reduce future regret significantly. How we react is critical because the wrong action could irreparably harm your larger goal. Have you ever shouted the insult and left the room in front of a slamming door? That door slam could also be the sound of your goals crashing to the floor forever. If we are prepared with the strategies in this chapter, we can feel confident in our decision-making post-failure. Let's review the nature of our reactions to bad decisions revealed and ways we can improve our perspective. Good choices when confronting a bad decision. How do we know a decision has gone bad? Usually there is proof before our eyes. As discussed earlier, our anxiety about that decision quickly turns into regret when we have proof. What happens to us in that moment when we must accept and deal with this realization? There are 3 good things we must try to do when dealing with a bad decision failure. 1. Control the mental chaos in our heads and think clearly. 2. Make a solid second decision to minimize the long-term damage. 3. Avoid deflecting the real cause of failure, attributing the failure to anything other than our decision-making ability in the past, or luck. Mind blown. Controlling the mental chaos. In a slow-motion video sequence focusing upon our inner working forces, there is a complex series of mental and physical reactions when we must admit we were wrong and decide what to do about it. The pressure is high in a firefight of internal finger-pointing while seeking relief. Bad decisions revealed put us under stress. When under stress, our minds work differently, and we cannot control our natural tendencies to react and cope. In formally testing my tendencies, I learned that under business stress, I quickly resort to anger. That explained a lot over the years, actually. And another experience was a few years ago when I went through a multi-day terrorist defense assault rifle certification course with a bunch of ex-soldiers. I was the only non-soldier. I'm a good shot at most yardages, but that was not the point of this grueling course. For 4 days, we were subjected to high-stress shooting decision-making while wearing 80 pounds of gear in the hot Louisiana sun. That was stress, and my decision-making ability was initially quite flawed. I learned for certain that adrenaline was my enemy when I needed to think. Combat stress introduced fear, and fear introduced adrenaline. Fight or flight, mental and physical reactions were not designed to also include rational thinking. This is why some police officers have made mistakes and taken action they regret, with crime suspects immediately following a chase or confrontation. They are not in control of their decision-making while under stress, pumped full of adrenaline. This takes a lot of training and unfortunately can ruin a career if not mastered because the results can be fatal. Being confronted with a bad decision we've made can incite fear, and then we can react poorly because we are angry or pumped up with adrenaline. The mind is chaotic in these moments, and we should notice all the different internal messages and learn which ones to ignore for the moment when under duress. The players in the heat of the moment: body, instinct, pride, intellect, ego, comfort. All these the mind must manage. Your awareness of the battle going on in your head is critical to confronting a bad decision. If you understand to whom you should listen and whom you should say hush in your thinking chaos, you will have the advantage in reacting to a bad decision. Mind. Our mind is the referee. It tries to manage an outcome. It needs to be clear and focused to do its best work. Instincts. Our instincts, or gut feelings, speak early, but denial renders them mute. What good are instincts when denial is master? Instincts remain permanently on record with their early recommendation. Ego. How we appear to others is extremely important to us. Thus, that ego will want to postpone embarrassment as long as possible because it fails to quantify the amount of total embarrassment. Ego practically bullies all the other players to avoid looking bad. Intelligence. Intelligence is the problem solver, searching for the optimal solution. When partnered with ego, our intellect, for a moment, thinks it can find a shortcut to get away with the error. Intellect, when corrupted, begins working on the best way to solve the problem and satisfy ego, which rarely works out. Body. Our bodies try to avoid stress. Stress brings fatigue, and fatigue enables bad decision-making. So the weakened body will undercut a strong mind and just want a decision to be made. Pride. Our pride is built from our successes. The more successful we have been, the harder it is to convince pride to take the hit right now. Pride will always want to delay consequences, even if it hurts more in the long term. Comfort. We long to be comfortable in mind and body. Discomfort feels bad, and we are programmed to find comfort. Seeking comfort is a form of taking shelter in a storm. It is not a long-term answer. Unfortunately, recognizing a bad decision creates a storm, and we will often choose what is comfortable instead of what is best for us long-term. A bad decision reaction illustrated in milliseconds. Mind. I just heard we have a problem. Instincts. I told you so. Ego. I don't hear anything. Pride. Wasn't me. Body. Where's the exit? Intelligence. Where's the evidence? Mind. All of you shut up so I can think. Ego. Nah. Who's hungry? Instincts. We've got to deal with it. Mind. Assembling options. Comfort. This is bad territory. Body. I'm starting to sweat. Pride. I don't make these type of mistakes. Ego. We are going to look really stupid. Intelligence. There is no fix, only quarantine options. Pride. It wasn't me that screwed this up. Body. I need to feel better right now. Ego. I'm still beautiful. Instincts. Don't make any knee-jerk decisions. Comfort. Let's find a quick compromise that's familiar. Intelligence. The best option is to embrace the mistake fully. Pride, ego, and body in a chorus. Oh no, that is too painful right now. Mind. I am driven by chemicals and right now the chorus is deafening. Intelligence. We are so screwed. Right there in just milliseconds, it is human to be suddenly vulnerable in the wake of a bad decision. We are suddenly ill at ease and forced to consider the worst outcome. Thus, at this moment of vulnerability, we have two options. Option 1. Address the first decision failure, the original decision failure, and its consequences head on, swiftly. Option 2. Anything but option 1. After enough hard experience flailing about with option 2, wisdom tends to push people toward option 1 as the best option. Reaction, the second decision opportunity. Quote, things are rarely as bad as they seem, is a common phrase at a low moment. I add to this phrase in this manner, things are rarely as bad now as they will be later if we fail to react appropriately and make a good second decision. Acknowledging and dealing head-on with the first bad decision is the second decision, our reaction. If the second decision is poor, the overall cost can more than double. Thus, we have a big opportunity to get back on track with a good second decision. Then why don't we? The battle over a second decision. In the following examples, think about the struggle among different interests in the consequences game: mind, instinct, intelligence, body, ego, and pride. Imagine what would have happened differently to Richard Nixon if he had said early, "Yes, I screwed up," and went along with a plan to gain information about my opponent. It was stupid, I didn't think it through, It violated someone's constitutional rights, and I am deeply sorry. I will not condone a cover-up, and we will get to the bottom of this. He might have been impeached, but he wouldn't have been forced to resign disgraced via the Supreme Court ruling against him, taking the public's trust down with him. In similar fashion, consider how Bill Clinton would have fared if he had not chosen denial of an affair with a White House intern, but instead said, "I regret to acknowledge that I made a very poor decision. I'm sorry for this coming to light as your president. I owe the greatest apology to my wife and will be working to save my marriage from this point forward." He would never have had to do a deposition and would never have been impeached by the House of Representatives, and the issue would have been over in months instead of years. Have you ever postponed a breakup of any kind? Romantic, a friendship, work? Because you had all the evidence you needed, but breaking up the relationship just didn't happen? There are several possible reasons for this result, and these errors are defined below. Personally, I have been in the business position to call a business that a partner and I had purchased a loss, but we refused to do it. Had we acknowledged it early, the loss would have been $500,000. Denial pushed this cost up to $3 million 2 years later. How does this happen? I can tell you that decision bias grows bigger as long as you let it grow, like a snowball rolling downhill. The longer you deny the decision failure, the bigger the failure gets. In this business deal, the numbers looked shaky in the beginning, so we researched and planned why it would work. With that satisfactory false buffer, we moved the factory operation from Philadelphia to Chicago, an expensive move involving 25 semi-trucks. We relocated some employees. We spent a ton of money moving 15 machines that had sat on the Philadelphia factory floor for 20 years, adjusted perfectly. When we moved that equipment, it wasn't a simple matter to put it back together and make it work. The equipment didn't work like it used to. We reasoned it was just a matter of time and adjustments. Yet it was also missing the machine operator who knew to kick the tire before flipping the switch, etc. We downplayed the idea that we had bought worn-out equipment. We chased our tails, and all the while the Chinese and the Indians were willing to make these products for less money than we could make them in Chicago. Gee whiz, that hurt. But I learned a great lesson. You can always pull the emergency brake and stop the train. In fact, the earlier we do it, the less damage is done. You may have a bad decision in your past that you ignored, and the problem grew bigger. Have you ever wondered why we failed to make the right call at the time? The heroes in a good second decision. If we serve mind, instinct, and intellect first, we can make a good second decision. This requires us to ignore ego and pride while examining our goals and what we really want for a result. Thus, when dealing with a bad decision, we benefit by remembering to keep a clear mind, listening early to our instincts, and let our intellect work without being corrupted by ego and pride. If we follow this prescription, our body will undergo less stress, and we will have a better long-term result. The villains of a bad second decision. The usual suspects prevent us from reacting correctly. Before we accept responsibility for our decision-making and react logically, we often look for an escape, a way to avoid dealing directly with our decision failure. These are convenient and easy escape options. Perhaps that is why society uses them so broadly at great cost. Let's look a little closer to sharpen our actions when our bad decisions are revealed to us. We potentially err in 4 categories. Each category carries its own damage. Error, deflecting the real cause of a bad decision. Quote, "It hurts because we wanted a different outcome, but then we make it hurt even worse by creating a narrative around what happened. So instead of creating that debilitating narrative, I think we're better served realizing that now we have an opportunity to pivot, to take our life in a different direction." Chris Hill. Failing is painful. Sometimes it is too painful to acknowledge accurately. People in our society prefer to point the finger at anything or anyone but themselves. We are skilled at finding automatic scapegoats toward which we deflect responsibility when a bad decision has made its mark. We must avoid the following forms of deflection, or we lose the opportunity to reach a conclusion. Have you ever used these? Deflection number 1. It was fate. It was fate offers your subconscious mind, suggesting that there was some predetermined movie script for your life that involved you making a bad decision, and then climaxes with you discovering how badly it turned out. This script also dictates the actions of all the people and things in your life that could have affected your circumstances and your thinking at the time of your decision, and the whole time since. How realistic is that? This kind of thinking, while convenient, doesn't help us. If we were to accept the idea of fate, then why even try to make a difference? Fate is a myth used by weak minds, and its use prevents us from acknowledging a bad decision that we made and gaining wisdom by learning from it. If fate were real, then the script includes not only the consequences of a bad decision, but also how you respond to it. Your response is exactly what this chapter is about. Be sure that you understand and fully accept the fact that the movie script of your life is being written and directed by you. Fate is a lazy myth. Deflection number 2, blind faith.